Coming up on Network Africa, Iranian President Raisi visits Zimbabwe, signs economic agreements as he ends his Africa tour. International Criminal Court investigates Darfur killing, rapes as violence surges in Sudan. And British Deputy High Commissioner in Lagos holds farewell ceremony for outgoing Deputy High Commissioner Ben Llewellyn Jones. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Joke Rogers here in Lagos. Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi has ended his tour of Africa in Zimbabwe's capital, Harare, where he was welcomed at the airport by Zimbabwean President Emerson Mnangagwa. Zimbabwe marks the final destination on his three-nation tour following his official visits to Kenya and Uganda. Zimbabwe and Iran signed 12 memorandums of understanding to strengthen bilateral ties. The 12 MOUs include plans to create a tractor manufacturing plant in Zimbabwe with an Iranian company and a local partner. The two countries also signed cooperation agreements for energy, agriculture, pharmaceuticals, and telecommunications, as well as research, science, and technology projects. VOA correspondent Columbus Vunga joins me now from Harare for more of this. Hearty welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Right, speak to us more about the major highlights of the Iranian president's visit to Harare.
I think this Iranian president left Russia when he left Africa because he had managed to clinch, for example, deals here in Harare. He also had the same arrangement in Kenya and also the same development in Kampala. As you might be aware, Iran was hit with sanctions by the United States. So Iran at the moment is looking for a market for its product and also a place or places where it can get raw materials for its industry.
And his three-leg tour ended in Zimbabwe, having been to Kenya and to Uganda. What was the mood like? How is the country reacting to his visit? Have there been any criticism whatsoever or praise?
I think that there are mixed feelings. Some are saying this is a South-South win-win situation which has happened between African countries and Iran, which is part of the South-South. Which is also an extension of the alliance that is forming because of the Russian-Ukraine conflict. So those who are pro-Russia are linking up with Russia and its allies, who include, among others, China and Iran. But some people are criticizing it, saying this is dictatorship which is being entrenched in Zimbabwe and in other African countries, Kenya, Uganda, Zimbabwe, and South Africa. But we can't run away from the historical linkage that is there between the former USSR republics and most African liberation movements, such as Kenya, Zimbabwe, Uganda, and South Africa.
And so I wonder what the strategy is in visiting these three countries. What does Harare stand to gain from this visit by the Iranian president? I know 12 agreements were signed. A lot of things were talked about. But what's the gain for Harare in all of this?
As you might be aware, Zimbabwe's leadership was imposed on sanctions in 2002 following several allegations by the West. So by this visit, Zimbabwe will stand to gain in development of tractors for its agriculture, and also for development of its gas industry, for its pharmaceuticals and telecoms, among other areas which were signed for effectiveness.
Right. Columbus, thank you for your time today. Let's move on in a bit to motivate Zimbabwean youths to come out en masse to vote in the upcoming general elections. Former world champion boxer Floyd Mayweather attended a political campaign event in the capital, Harare. Zimbabwean President Emmerson Mnangagwa says he vows to do whatever he can to remain in power, promising to revive an economy that has collapsed under his watch as he launched his bid for a second five-year term last June. Floyd Mayweather was treated to a nice welcome by youths and locals.
Former world boxing champion Floyd Mayweather attended a political campaign event in Zimbabwe as part of the ruling party's attempts to woo youth voters ahead of a general election next month. Mayweather was welcomed with song and dance by the ruling ZANU-PF party supporters in Mabufu, one of Zimbabwe's oldest townships on the outskirts of the capital, Harare.
I'm happy to see Mayweather here in Zimbabwe. It's the first time to come here in Zimbabwe to show people what he's able to do. So you can see most of the people, they are doing what they are doing to show Mayweather, here in Mabufu we have talent.
The 46-year-old American former boxer thrilled the crowd with a public workout, which included punching and jumping ropes. He also watched 3 matches from Zimbabwe's budding boxers. Some young people attending the rally pledged to vote for 80-year-old Zimbabwean President Emmerson Mnangagwa, who is seeking a second term in the August 23rd poll.
I'm registered to vote. I'm going to vote for our President Emmerson Mnangagwa.
The election takes place amid a raging economic crisis with high inflation and a currency that plunged more than 50% last month against the US dollar.
We're now in Sudan. The International Criminal Court has launched an investigation into a surge of hostilities in the Darfur region since mid-April, including reports of killings, rapes, arson, displacement, and crimes affecting children. The regular army and paramilitary rapid support forces have been battling in the capital, Khartoum, and other areas of Sudan in a power struggle that exploded on April the 15th. More than 3 million people have been uprooted, including more than 700,000 who have fled into neighboring countries. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said last week that Sudan, Africa's third largest country by land area, was on the brink of full-scale civil war that could destabilize the wider region.
The Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights released a report which detailed allegations concerning the killing of 87 ethnic Masalit, allegedly by the RSF and members of their allied militia in West Darfur. We are investigating those allegations. We are, by any analysis, not on the precipice of a human catastrophe, but in the very midst of one. It is occurring. And it's my analysis and my prayer and advice that we must act urgently, collectively, to protect the most vulnerable. If this oft-repeated phrase of never again is to mean anything, it must mean something here and now for the people of Darfur that have lived with this uncertainty and pain and the scars of conflict for almost 2 decades. With respect to the role of my office, I do wish to be very clear that our mandate pursuant to Security Council Resolution 1593 is ongoing with respect of crimes within our jurisdiction, the crimes of genocide, crimes against humanity, and war crimes. And any individual who is found to be committing those crimes within our jurisdictions will be investigated. And depending upon assessments by the independent judges of the ICC, we will strain every sinew and leave no stone unturned to ensure that they are held accountable in fair and independent trials.
Meanwhile, Egypt has launched the ministerial mechanism to communicate with Sudanese warring parties in an attempt to find a resolution to the prolonged conflict. During a regional summit in Cairo, Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi said, in his words, "We express our deepest concern about the continuation of military operations and the severe deterioration in the security and humanitarian situation in Sudan. We urge the warring parties to stop the escalation, commit to immediate and sustainable ceasefire, end the war, and prevent the bloodshed of innocent civilians of the Sudanese people." The Egyptian president adds that a ministerial mechanism to monitor the Sudanese crisis on the level of ministers of foreign affairs in neighboring countries will have its first meeting in Chad. Elsewhere, Ghana has defended its policy of sending asylum seekers back to Burkina Faso after the United Nations Refugee Agency urged it to stop deportations. Ghana's National Security Ministry said suspected terrorists and illegal migrants were being repatriated in accordance with international protocols, and it claimed refugees were only being sent back if they were willing to go. Burkina Faso is in the grip of an Islamist insurgency, and Ghana is concerned that the militants could take advantage of the flow of refugees to infiltrate its territory. The Apex Court of South Africa, the Constitutional Court, has dismissed the Correctional Services Department's application to overturn a Supreme Court of Appeal's earlier ruling on former President Jacob Zuma's release on medical parole 2 years ago being unlawful. The court has also dismissed the application to intervene, which was made by Mr. Zuma's legal team. This ruling could see the 81-year-old return to prison to finish his sentencing. In 2021, Mr. Zuma was handed a 15-month sentence by the Constitutional Court for contempt after he refused to appear at the state capture inquiry. A few months later, the then National Commissioner, Arthur Fraser, released Mr. Zuma on medical parole, citing that he was not medically fit to serve the rest of his sentence in prison. Jacob Zuma only served 2 months behind bars at the Estcourt Correctional Center in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. The Constitutional Court found that the Correctional Services Department's appeal bears no reasonable prospect of success and dismissed the application with costs. It's now up to the current National Commissioner to decide on whether days spent on medical parole by the former president count. Welcome back. According to a United Nations report, global public debt surged to a record $92 trillion in 2022 as governments borrowed to counter crises such as the COVID-19 pandemic, with the burden being felt acutely by developing countries. The report, released in the run-up to a G20 finance ministers and central bank governors meeting from July 14 to 18, adds that developing countries owe almost 30% of the global public debt, of which 70% is represented by China, India, and Brazil. 59 developing countries face a debt-to-GDP ratio above 60%, a threshold indicating high levels of debt. In Africa, a creditor participation grew from 30% in 2010 to 44% in 2021.
Half of our world is sinking into a development disaster fueled by a crushing debt crisis. That is the main message of the report we are presenting today, a world of debt. Some 3.3 billion people, almost half of humanity, live in countries that spend more on debt interest payments than on education or health. And yet, because most of these unsustainable debts are concentrated in poor countries, they are not judged to pose a systemic risk to the global financial system. This is a mirage. 3.3 billion people is more than a systemic risk. It's a systemic failure. Markets may seem not to be suffering, yet people are. And some of the poorest countries in the world are being forced into a choice between servicing their debt or serving their people. They have virtually no fiscal space for essential investments in the Sustainable Development Goals or the transition to renewable energy. Levels of public debt are staggering and surging. In 2022, global public debt reached a record 92 trillion US dollars, and developing countries shoulder a disproportionate amount.
Some secondary school students in Education District 3 public schools in Lagos have been challenged in a STEAM competition to identify and solve a problem in their community using design, thinking, creativity, and analytical skills. The competition is designed to help promote critical thinking and problem solving among the students.
After a month-long training on design thinking for 500 secondary school students across the 10 public schools in Lagos, only 5 schools made it to the pitch finals of Project I Community STEAM competition.
In order to solve this, we have to...
The competition challenges the students to identify and solve a problem in their school or community using design thinking, a problem-solving approach that involves creativity, critical thinking, and analytical skills. Using the design thinking principles introduced to them, the students are able to come up with ideas and pitch their proposed solutions to a panel of judges.
You are staying in the class having your mathematics or English studies, your lesson learning effectively. Then the rain begins to disturb you in the class with dust, dirt, and breeze everywhere scattered. You don't know what to do. All we have to do, we have to close all the windows. In order to solve this, we have to come up with this idea, which my colleague said. We bought the nail in order to solve this problem. Our source of energy is solar panel. Then we have batteries to power and keep the storage of energy. Those bulbs will be able to brighten the class after closing all the windows in the classroom.
We, the students of Lagos State Senior Model College Boundary, don't have access to hot water because 1, we aren't allowed to own our own personal kettles and boiling rooms. 2, it's time and resources consuming to provide hot water for the whole community of students. And lastly, there isn't adequate power supply, even if the school authority can make this possible.
This is why we came up with the Steam Up bottle, a battery-powered water bottle that can provide hot water at the push of a button. This bottle has a charging port. This bottle is well insulated to prevent electric shocks. This bottle consists of nylon wires, connecting wires, it has batteries, and it has an insulator. This is a sketch of the bottle. And right here we will see the thermal flask. And around the thermal flask, you will see nylon wires that acts as the resistor. And around it, you will see a Teflon tape coating that is here. And then around the bottle with the insulator, you will see a Teflon foam that is a lagging material preventing the nylon wire from touching the resistor.
The competition is designed to promote critical thinking and problem-solving skills among secondary school students in Education District 3 public schools.
We want to empower them with creativity, we want to empower them with problem-solving skills, we want to empower them with critical thinking and collaboration. That was really what was key. And then, even after you have a fantastic idea, you still need to be able to know how to present it. Because you can have a good idea but not be able to convince other people about it. Which was why it was important that we had a competition. And it was important in that competition, after they come up with their idea, they were able to present it. And so we celebrate the 5 schools that made it here. Your presentation skills were good. Your Problem solving, creativity, we saw that in the ideas that you came up with.
The solutions were judged based on 6 criteria: the ability to solve a problem faced in the community or school, a demonstration of creativity and innovation, its benefit to a sizable number of people, its leverage of technology, the feasibility and affordability of the solution, as well as the presentation skills of the students.
And I would say it has been a wonderful experience because the students were able to learn. We started with a high energy from the students. I think it was a wonderful experience. They loved every step of the way. They understood the iteration of design thinking, how it should work, the things that they should do. And went ahead to select 10 more students that will represent them. And it was a wonderful experience. We went back for mentorship program where the students learn how to more expatiate on their solutions and how it affect the community at large.
Initially, when we started, they came up with all sorts of problems and ways to solve them. I was with them at the last moment before we could actually choose a particular one. I told them all of this idea of using solar to solve problems, let's go down to the one that is peculiar to our school. And exactly what we did by coming up with the steam bottle.
Part of the aim of the competition is to empower youngsters with STEAM knowledge and equip them with relevant skills that will prepare them for the future of work.
Now I know my level of solving problems have really increased. Even my teammates, at first it was challenging. We had a lot of things to solve. We were even confused. We wanted to come up with our own solution to a problem. We didn't want anybody's own or anyone's suggesting for us. So it was really, really challenging at first, but lastly, we overcame it.
STEAM education is an approach to learning that uses science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics as access points for guiding students' inquiry, dialogue, and critical thinking.
And finally on the program, like a ticking clock, the journey of 3 years as the British Deputy High Commissioner in Lagos has come to an end for Ben Llewellyn-Jones. The British Deputy High Commissioner hosted a farewell dinner in his honor at the Deputy High Commission residence in Ikoyi, Lagos. Having spent a total of 6 years in Nigeria, he says his experience and time working in Lagos is one that will never be forgotten in his career history.
It's an evening of cheers and hugs as the British Deputy High Commissioner Ben Llewellyn-Jones is hosted to a farewell reception for a job well done over the last 3 years. Speaking to reporters before the ceremony, the outgoing British Deputy High Commissioner commented on diverse topics ranging from the UK-Nigeria relationship, trade, investment, to foreign policy, amongst others.
I think it's incredibly strong, and I'm always struck by how often I come across links that even I'm not aware of. People-to-people links, music, culture, sport, and if you add to that the incredible trade, investment, and also government-to-government dialogue we have in respect of development and foreign policy, I think it's a very, very strong, very vibrant, very current relationship. So I'm sure it will go from strength to strength, but it's been an incredibly strong relationship in the time that I've been here.
Addressing the role the UK played in the just concluded 2023 general elections, he has this to say.
The UK tries to be a candid friend and partner to Nigeria, trying to encourage what is, I think, a democratic process since 1999. And so, for our part, trying to support civil society, support the electoral process, and to try and ensure it's as open a process as possible. So I think that's what we did, that's what we intended to do. And of course now we're waiting for some tribunals to give their results, and we'll see what they do. But the important thing, I think, is that for Nigerians who voted to vote again in 2027.
The dinner reception begins a while later with farewell messages from colleagues, partners, friends, and even loved ones.
For me personally, working with Ben for the last year has been truly one of the most challenging but satisfying and happiest years of my working life. Thank you for the multiplicity of ways in which you've added value and made such a positive impact here in Nigeria. You'll be greatly missed.
Wife of the outgoing British Deputy High Commissioner Laura Llewellyn-Jones wears a bright smile as she reflects on her journey in Nigeria.
We've really enjoyed our 6 years here, 3 years in Lagos and 3 years in Abuja. We've had fun, we've got lots of Nigerian friends, friends for life that I'm sure we'll see, and our children as well have got lots of friends from school, and so I know we're going to have a lot of Nigerian links coming into the future.
On the sideline of the occasion, African affairs analyst Oluseyi Adeyemo praised the relations Nigeria shares with the UK in terms of security and trade.
I believe that as regards security, the UK has been very supportive of Nigeria in terms of providing intelligence, in terms of providing technical support, and in terms of trade as well. They understand that we're a very, very beautiful bride, and the whole world is chasing after us.
For Metropolitan Senior Pastor Mr. Paul Adefarasi, Mr. Llewellyn-Jones came leading and learning.
My dear friend, Ben, phenomenon, forthright, listening ear, engaged with our community in all its sectors, and made genuine friendships. Britain should be very proud. King Charles III should be very proud of the work he's done here, and he's left a good platform for his successors, and more kudos to him. And because he's a developmentalist, Whitehall will possibly profit from him immensely. And he's helped us to lay some important foundations in his time and build on the foundations of some of his predecessors. A phenomenon. We like that kind of Consular General.
As the British Deputy High Commission in Lagos looks forward to welcoming another Deputy High Commissioner, it is clear that Ben Llewellyn-Jones would be greatly missed.
That's our show today. Thank you for watching. I'm Joke Rogers.